Day one remembered the day they came for him. He was 8 years old, sitting in the corner of the orphanage playroom. The building was old and cold. The other children were loud, but Day one liked quiet. He liked watching patterns. He noticed how the guard always checked the north door first, how the cook arrived at exactly 7 in the morning, how the director smiled differently when important people visited. That day, important people came. They wore clean white suits that looked expensive. One was human, a woman with hard eyes and a fake smile. The others were aliens. Day one had seen aliens on television, but never in person. They were tall and thin with gray skin and too many fingers. They walked through the orphanage looking at children like someone picking fruit at a market. The woman stopped in front of Day one. Her name was Counselor Mira. She crouched down to his level. "Hello, Day one. How would you like to go to a special school?" she asked. Day one said nothing. He had learned that adults who smiled too much always wanted something. "You would help humanity," Mira continued. "The aliens want to see if human children can learn special things. You would be a hero." One of the aliens made a sound. The translator device on its chest spoke in a flat voice. "This one shows good observation skills. High intelligence markers. Acceptable." They chose 7 other children that day. One was a girl named HFY. She was 7 years old with fierce eyes and skinned knees from climbing trees. When the aliens pointed at her, she stepped forward without fear. Day one noticed that. Most children would have hidden behind the adults. HFY walked straight to them. The next morning a ship took them away. Not just from the orphanage, but from Earth. Day one watched his planet get smaller through the window. He tried to remember every detail, knowing somehow that memory would be important later. HFY sat across from him. She did not cry like the other children. She just stared at the aliens with those fierce eyes. The ship traveled for days. They arrived at a space station far from Earth, out past the frozen rocks at the edge of the solar system. The station was huge and white and sterile. Everything smelled like chemicals. The aliens led them through hallways to a large room with beds and strange machines. A tall alien stepped forward. "I am Dr. Vecthar," the translator said. "You are here because humanity wishes to prove itself worthy of joining the Galactic Consortium. You are weak, slow, fragile. We will make you better. If you survive, you will be the first of a new kind of human." That night they learned what better meant. It meant pain. They strapped Day one to a table. They injected things into his blood. His body burned from the inside. He screamed until his voice broke. When they finally released him, he could not walk. They dragged him back to his bed. HFY was in the bed next to his. She was crying silently, her whole body shaking. Day one reached out his hand. After a moment, she took it. They said nothing. There were no words for what was happening to them. The treatments continued for weeks. Every few days, more injections, more pain, more changes happening inside their bodies. Of the 20 children who came to the station, 12 died in the first month. Their bodies could not handle the changes. The aliens made notes and adjusted the treatments for the survivors. Day one started noticing changes. His mind felt sharper. He could remember entire conversations perfectly. He saw patterns in everything: guard rotations, meal times, the schedule of treatments. His body healed faster, too. A cut that should have taken days to heal closed in hours. HFY changed differently. She became stronger. One day she bent the metal rail of her bed by accident. She stared at her hands, shocked. The aliens noticed and made more notes. They seemed pleased. By the 3rd month, only 5 children remained alive. Then 4, then 3. Finally, just Day one and HFY. Dr. Vecthar studied them with something like pride. "Remarkable," he said to his assistants. "The human will to survive is stronger than expected. These two have adapted to every enhancement. We can proceed to the advanced phase." That night, Day one lay in his bed thinking. The advanced phase meant more pain, more chances to die. He had been watching, learning, planning. He knew the guard patterns now. He knew which doors locked and which did not. He knew where the escape pods were because he had memorized the station maps on the walls. He tapped on the wall between his bed and HFY's. 3 quick taps, then 2 slow ones. It was a code they had developed to talk when the aliens were listening. HFY tapped back. She was awake. Day one tapped out a message. "Tomorrow. Escape. Ready?" HFY's response came quickly. "Yes. Together." The next day, they moved Daewon and Haiwan to a different section of the station. It was transfer day, when they took the children to new testing facilities. This was the moment Daewon had been waiting for. During transfers, security was lighter. The guards expected the children to be weak and obedient. They were wrong. As they walked through the corridor, Daewon stumbled and fell against a control panel. It looked like an accident. The guards moved to help him. They did not see him press 3 specific buttons in a sequence he had memorized weeks ago. Alarms screamed. The lights turned red. The life support system started failing in sections of the station. Not enough to kill anyone, but enough to create chaos. Guards ran in different directions. Dr. Vekthar's voice shouted orders over the communication system. In the confusion, Haiwan moved. Her enhanced strength let her break the restraints on her wrists like they were paper. She grabbed Daewon's restraints and tore them off too. The 2 guards escorting them reached for weapons, but Haiwan was faster. She hit the first one hard enough to knock him unconscious. The second one she pushed into the wall. He collapsed. "Which way?" Haiwan asked. "Follow me," Daewon said. His enhanced memory showed him the path perfectly. Left, then right, then down 3 levels. Past the medical bay. Through the maintenance corridor. The escape pods were in the emergency section. They ran. More guards appeared. Haiwan fought them. She was only 7 years old, but she was strong enough to throw grown aliens across hallways. Daewon stayed close behind her, calling out directions. His mind worked fast, adjusting their route based on where guards were appearing. They reached the escape pod bay. Daewon's hands flew over the control panel. He had watched technicians use these controls on the security monitors. He knew the sequence. "The pod door opened. Get in!" he shouted. They climbed inside. Daewon sealed the door and started the launch sequence. Through the window, he saw Dr. Vekthar running into the bay. The alien scientist stopped and stared at them. His expression was not angry. It was fascinated. The translator on his chest spoke. "Remarkable. The protective instinct overcame the conditioning. This changes everything." Then the pod launched. The force pressed them back into their seats. The station grew smaller behind them. They were free. Daewon disabled the distress beacon. He did not want anyone tracking them. The pod drifted through space, powered down to minimal systems. They had food for 3 weeks, maybe 4. They had no idea where they were going. Haiwan looked at him. She was still shaking from the fight and the escape. Her fierce eyes were wet with tears she refused to let fall. "What do we do now?" she asked. "We survive," Daewon said, "and we make sure they never hurt anyone else like they hurt us." He took her hand and she held on tight. 2 children, alone in the dark of space, changed by what had been done to them. But they were alive, and they were free. For now, that was enough. 20 years passed before Daewon stopped looking over his shoulder every day. The mining ship that found their escape pod asked few questions. The captain was an old man who had seen too much to be surprised by anything. He gave them new names on the ship's records and dropped them off at a small colony on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Europa was cold and hard. The colony lived under thick ice, drilling for water and minerals. People came to Europa to disappear or to start over. Nobody cared about your past as long as you worked hard. Daewon and Haiwan fit right in. Daewon got a job analyzing mining data. His enhanced mind made him very good at finding patterns in rock samples and efficiency in equipment. Haiwan worked in construction, building new tunnels and structures. Her strength made her valuable, but she was careful never to show too much. She lifted what a strong human could lift, not what she was actually capable of. They shared a small apartment carved into the ice. At night, they still had nightmares. Daewon would wake up screaming. Haiwan would find him sitting in the dark, counting his heartbeats to prove he was alive and free. On other nights, she was the one who could not sleep. She would pace the tiny apartment like a trapped animal. Daewon would make tea and sit with her until the fear passed. They never talked about what happened in the laboratory. They did not need to. They both carried the same scars, the same memories, but slowly over years something changed between them. The bond formed by shared trauma became something deeper. They were not just survivors together. They were home to each other. Daewon was 25 when he asked Haiwan to marry him. They were sitting in their apartment after a long work shift. He just said it, simple and direct, "Will you marry me?" Haiwan looked at him with those fierce eyes now softened by time. "Yes, but no children. I will not risk passing on what they did to us." "Agreed," Daewon said. They both believed their enhancements would make normal life impossible for any child. They were wrong. 3 years later, HFY discovered she was pregnant. The news terrified them both. They found a doctor they could trust. A quiet woman named Dr. Park who asked no questions about why they needed complete secrecy. She monitored the pregnancy carefully. "The baby is healthy," Dr. Park said after each checkup. "Better than healthy, actually. I have never seen such strong vital signs." When Jiho was born, Day One counted his fingers and toes 3 times. 10 of each, normal, human. But as the baby grew, they noticed things. Jiho never got sick. When he fell, he healed in hours instead of days. At 6 months old, he could already recognize patterns in his toys that most children would not see for years. "He has what we have," HFY whispered one night, watching their son sleep. "But better, stronger, like it was meant to be this way." Day One felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Maybe their enhancements were not a curse. Maybe they were evolution. Over the next 15 years, they had 2 more children. Subin was born when Jiho was 3. Then came their youngest, a boy they named Taeyoung. All 3 children showed the same enhanced abilities. But unlike their parents, the children did not suffer. Their abilities came naturally, like having brown eyes or black hair. One evening when Jiho was 16, Day One noticed something in the colony records. There was a family 2 levels down with a child who never got sick, who learned too fast, who was too strong for her age. Day One studied the parents' records more carefully. The father had worked on a science vessel 23 years ago. The same year Day One and HFY escaped. The mother's medical records showed signs of genetic enhancement, very careful enhancement designed to look natural. But Day One's enhanced pattern recognition saw through it. They were not alone. There were others. Day One spent months searching through colony databases across the outer solar system. He found patterns. Families with unusually healthy children. Workers with slightly too fast reflexes. People who never appeared in medical records for common illnesses. Each time he dug deeper until he found the connection. Former test subjects, escaped experiments, survivors. He made contact carefully. An encrypted message, a coded phrase that only someone from the laboratory would recognize. The first response took 3 weeks. Then more came. One by one, the survivors reached out. They had all been hiding, all been afraid, all been changed by what was done to them. 23 survivors in total, and they had 64 children between them. They met secretly on a small asteroid station that processed ore. Families arrived over several weeks, pretending to be workers or traders. When they were all together, Day One stood before them. "We thought we were alone," he said. "We were wrong. We are a community, a family, and our children are stronger than we ever were." A woman named Bora stood up. She was one of the survivors. "What do we do? Keep hiding forever?" "We have no choice," another survivor said. "The consortium still exists. If they find us, they will take our children." The room went quiet. Every parent there understood that fear. Their children were everything. Then Jiho spoke. At 24, he was the oldest of the 2nd generation. He had his father's sharp mind and his mother's fierce determination. "You ran because you were children," Jiho said. "You were alone and scared. But we are not children anymore. And we are not alone. There are 64 of us now. Soon there will be more. How long do we hide? How long do we let them think they can do this to people?" His younger sister Subin, 21 years old and stronger than any human should be, stood beside him. The other young people stood too. One by one, all 64 of the 2nd generation rose to their feet. "We should fight," Subin said simply. The parents looked at each other. They had spent decades hiding, protecting their children by staying invisible. Now their children wanted to step into the light. HFY stood up. She looked at her children, then at Day One. He nodded. "If we fight, we do it smart," HFY said. "We need ships, weapons, training. We need to be ready for everything they can throw at us. And we need proof," Day One added. "Proof of what they did. Documents, records, witnesses. We show the whole galaxy what the consortium is capable of." They voted. Every adult, every parent, every survivor. The vote was unanimous. They would stop hiding. They would build a fleet. And they would go back to that laboratory in the Kuiper Belt. The preparation took 4 years. They used their savings, their connections, their enhanced abilities to acquire what they needed. Mining ships were converted into warships. Cargo haulers became troop transports. The 2nd generation trained in combat. in tactics, in the skills they would need. Then 1 month before they were ready to leave, a message arrived. It was from Bora's daughter, Minseo. The girl was 16. The message was desperate. They found us. They are taking my mother. They know what she is. Please, someone help. The message cut off with the sound of doors breaking. Daewon looked at his family, at the community they had built, at the children they were protecting. The fear that had kept them hidden for 40 years still whispered in his mind. But louder than fear was something else. Anger. Determination. Love. We leave tomorrow, he said. All of us. We go to that station, we get Bora and Minseo back, and we make sure the consortium never hurts another human being. Haewon took his hand. After 40 years, they were going back to the place where their nightmare began. But they were not going as victims. They were going as something the consortium never expected. They were going as parents. The fleet emerged from the asteroid belt like ghosts from the dark. 15 ships in total. They were not large or impressive by military standards, but they moved with perfect coordination, their paths calculated to the second. On the lead ship, Daewon stood on the bridge watching the screens. Beside him, Haewon checked weapon systems. Around them, their children and the other second generation worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Send the message, Daewon said. Jiho pressed a button. The message broadcast on all frequencies, reaching Earth and the consortium research station simultaneously. Daewon's voice, steady and calm, filled the communication channels. 44 years ago, the Galactic Consortium took 20 human children. They tortured us, experimented on us. 18 died, 2 escaped. Today we return, not as victims but as parents. You wanted to see what enhanced humans could become. Now you will learn. On Earth, the message caused immediate panic. In the government building, Counselor Mira went pale. She was older now, her hair gray, her face lined. But she recognized Daewon's voice immediately. After all these years, the children she had sent away were coming back. She called an emergency meeting. We need to stop them before they reach the station. If they get the records, if they find proof of what we did, what you did, one of the other counselors corrected. You were the one who signed the transfer orders. Mira ignored that. Send our defense fleet. Intercept them. Use any means necessary. Earth's fleet launched within hours. 30 warships, more than twice the number Daewon commanded. The fleet admiral was confident. These were just civilians in converted mining ships. It would be over quickly. The 2 fleets met near Jupiter's orbit. Daewon watched the Earth ships approach on his screens. He felt no hate for them. They were following orders, protecting their government. They did not know the truth yet. Try to contact them one more time, Daewon told Jiho. Tell them we do not want to fight Earth. We are going to the consortium station. They can let us pass or they can learn why they should have. The Earth Fleet Admiral responded with weapons fire. So be it, Haewon said quietly. She looked at Subin, who commanded one of their ships. Remember, we disable, we do not destroy. These are our people, even if they do not know it yet. What followed was not really a battle. It was a demonstration. Jiho's tactical predictions were perfect. He knew where each Earth ship would be before they moved. The fleet split apart and reformed in patterns that seemed random, but were mathematically precise. Earth's weapons fired at empty space. Daewon's ships were always somewhere else. Then they struck back, not with missiles or bullets, but with electromagnetic pulses that disabled systems without harming crews. Within 20 minutes, half the Earth fleet was drifting, powerless. The other half tried to retreat but found themselves surrounded. Subin led boarding teams onto the disabled ships. Her team moved through the corridors faster than normal humans could follow. They were not there to kill. They were there to talk. On the Earth flagship, Subin found the Admiral on his bridge. He reached for a weapon, but she was holding it before his hand got close. She did not point it at him. She just set it on a table and held up a data chip. Watch this, she said. Then decide if you want to keep fighting us. The data chip contained everything. Video recordings from the laboratory, medical files of the children who died, transfer orders with Counselor Mira's signature, testimony from survivors. The truth documented and undeniable. Subin left the chip and walked out. On every captured ship, the story was the same. The enhanced humans showed the crews the truth, then left. No violence, no threats, just information. Within an hour, the Earth fleet began to fracture. Ship captains contacted each other. Arguments broke out over communication channels. Some captains insisted on following orders. Others refused to fight anymore. The admiral of the fleet sat in his chair, staring at the evidence on his screen, and did nothing. Half the Earth ships powered down their weapons. They would not help Daewon's fleet, but they would not fight against it either. The other half limped back toward Earth, damaged and defeated. Daewon's fleet continued toward the Kuiper Belt, toward the research station, toward the place where it all began. On the research station, Dr. Vekthar prepared. He was old now. His body moved slowly, his eyes were dim, but his mind was still sharp. When he heard about the approaching fleet, he smiled. After 44 years, his greatest experiments were returning. Activate all defenses, he told his staff. But do not fire first. I want to see what they do. I want to see what they have become. The station was protected by automated weapon systems and a small consortium military force. It was not a military base, but it could defend itself. Dr. Vekthar was confident. Even if these enhanced humans were remarkable, they were still just humans. The consortium had technology far beyond anything Earth possessed. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Daewon's fleet approached the station slowly. They made no aggressive moves. On the lead ship, Haiwan stood beside Daewon, watching the station grow larger on the screens. Her hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back. Are you ready? Daewon asked quietly. No, Haiwan admitted. But we are doing this anyway. Jiho turned from his station. The station is hailing us. Dr. Vekthar wants to talk. Put him on screen, Daewon said. The image appeared. Dr. Vekthar looked at them with those alien eyes. His translator spoke in that flat, emotionless voice. Daewon, Haiwan, you survived. You thrived. You reproduced. Remarkable. This exceeds all my predictions. Please come aboard. Let me study you. Let me see what you have accomplished. Haiwan's hands stopped shaking. Her fear turned to cold anger. Study us, she said. Like you studied the 18 children you killed? Like you are studying Bora and Minseo right now? They are volunteers, Dr. Vekthar said. Willing participants in important research. Lies, Daewon said. His voice was still calm, but there was steel in it. We know what you do here. We know because you did it to us. Today it ends. End? Dr. Vekthar tilted his head. No, Daewon. Today it continues. You are proof that my work was correct. Enhanced humans are the future. Your children, your fleet, your abilities, all of it proves my theories. You should be grateful. I made you into something more than human. You made us into survivors, Daewon said. And survival is what we do best. He cut the connection. On the bridge, the crew waited for orders. Daewon looked at his family. At the children who were now adults. At the second generation who had never known the laboratory but carried its legacy in their blood. We do not destroy the station, Daewon said. We take it. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence. We find Bora and Minseo, and then we show the whole galaxy what the consortium has been doing. Jiho smiled. Now that is a plan. Subin cracked her knuckles. Finally. I was getting tired of just disabling ships. The fleet moved into position. This was not revenge. This was not a rescue mission. This was something bigger. This was the moment when humanity, enhanced and baseline survivors and their children, said no to being victims ever again. The siege was about to begin. The attack on the station began with silence. No missiles, no explosions, just Subin and her team disappearing into the maintenance tunnels that ran through the outer hull. The tunnels were designed for repair robots, not humans. They were narrow, cold, and filled with exposed wiring and sharp edges. Subin moved through them like water. Her enhanced body could compress and bend in ways that should have been impossible. Bones that would break in a normal human just flexed. Behind her, 5 more of the second generation followed. They were all young, all strong, all angry about what had been done to their parents. Inside the station, alarms screamed. Dr. Vekthar watched on monitors as his security systems reported intrusions in 6 different sections. The enhanced humans were already inside. He had not even seen them approach. Fascinating, he muttered. They are using tactics that should not work against our sensors. His security chief, a large alien with armored skin, growled. Should I send troops to stop them? No, Dr. Vekthar said. Let them come. I want to observe their methods. Besides, we have the leverage. He turned to another monitor. It showed a cell where 2 humans were being held. Bora and her daughter Minseo. Subin reached the main power junction. She pulled out a device Jiho had designed. It looked simple, just a box with wires. But when she attached it to the power flow, it sent false signals through the entire station network. The security system started seeing threats that were not there. Defense turrets turned away from real intrusions to shoot at shadows. Subin spoke into her communication device. Power is compromised. Their AI is confused. You have a clear path to the docking bay. Outside, Daewon's main ships moved in. They docked with practiced precision. Boarding ramps extended. Teams poured into the station. Not just warriors. They brought technicians to copy data, medics to treat any wounded, engineers to disable systems. This was not a raid. This was an occupation. Daewon and Haewon boarded together. As soon as they stepped into the station, Haewon stopped. Her breathing became fast and shallow. The corridors looked exactly like they had 44 years ago. White walls, bright lights, the smell of chemicals. Daewon took her hand. It was shaking. "We are not those children anymore," he said quietly. "We are not helpless." "We are not alone," Haewon nodded. She took a deep breath and the shaking stopped. Her fierce eyes returned. They moved forward. The station security tried to stop them. Consortium soldiers in armor appeared in the corridors, weapons raised. The first group met Jiho's tactical team. The soldiers never had a chance. The enhanced humans moved too fast. Predicted every move, worked together with perfect coordination. Within minutes, the soldiers were disarmed and restrained. None of them were killed. The enhanced humans took no pleasure in violence. They were just removing obstacles. While the fighting continued in some sections, Daewon led a team to the central computer core. This was what they really came for. The data, the proof. He plugged in a specialized drive Jiho had built and started the download. 44 years of files, experiments, reports, videos, names of every human who had been brought here. As the data copied, Daewon read some of the files. His enhanced memory absorbed everything instantly. What he saw made him sick. The experiments had not stopped after he and Haewon escaped. They had continued. Hundreds of humans, most died, some survived with enhancements. A few escaped like he had found. But many were still here in cells being studied. One file caught his attention. Subject 247 Bora, captured 3 months ago. The report detailed the experiments being performed on her. They were testing how much pain an enhanced human could endure, how fast she could heal from injuries, what happened when her body was pushed past its limits. Daewon felt a cold rage settle over him. He finished the download and contacted Haewon. The containment cells. Section 7. Bora is there. Minseo too. I am sending you the location. On my way, Haewon replied. Haewon moved through the station with Subin and a medical team. They found Section 7 behind 3 locked doors and a security checkpoint. The guards there did not even try to fight. They saw Haewon coming and ran. Smart choice. The containment cells were small rooms with transparent walls. Inside one, Bora lay on a medical bed. She was unconscious, her body covered in healing wounds and medical monitors. She looked thin and pale. In the cell next to hers, Minseo sat against the wall. The girl looked up when she heard footsteps. When she saw Haewon, she started crying. "You came," Minseo whispered. "You actually came." Subin tore the cell door open. The metal bent like paper. She walked in and knelt beside Minseo. "Of course we came. We are family. We protect family." The medics rushed to Bora. They disconnected the machines and started treating her properly. One medic looked at Haewon with horror in her eyes. "The things they did to her," the medic said quietly. "This is torture, not research." "I know," Haewon said. "We know better than anyone." They found 12 other humans in containment. All were survivors of experiments. All were being held against their will. All were freed. While the rescue operations continued, Daewon finally reached the central laboratory. The place where it had all happened. The room where 18 children died and 2 barely survived. Dr. Vekthar was waiting there. He stood alone, surrounded by his equipment and monitors. He looked calm. "Daewon," the translator spoke. "You have taken my station. Defeated my security. Freed my subjects. Impressive. You are everything I hoped you would become." Daewon walked closer. He was 52 years old now, but his enhanced body made him look younger. He was taller than Dr. Vekthar, stronger, smarter. everything the alien had made him into. But he was also something the alien had not intended. He was free. "You did not make us," Day One said. "You broke us. We made ourselves into what we are. We survived despite you, not because of you." "Semantics," Dr. Vekthar replied. "The result is the same. You are enhanced superior, the future of your species. You should thank me." Haywan entered the laboratory. She walked to Day One's side. She looked at Dr. Vekthar with pure hatred. "Thank you," she said. "For killing 18 children? For torturing us? For taking Bora and Mincio? For 44 years of experiments on unwilling humans? Progress requires sacrifice," Dr. Vekthar said. "The consortium approved my research. They understood the value. Your species was weak. I am making you strong." Day One pulled out a data chip. "This chip contains every file from your computers. Every experiment. Every death. Every crime you committed. We are going to broadcast it to every system in the sector. Earth, consortium worlds, independent colonies. Everyone will know what you did." "They will not care," Dr. Vekthar said. "Humans are inferior. The consortium will protect me. My research is too valuable. Then they will learn the same lesson you are learning right now," Haywan said. "Do not underestimate humans, especially when you hurt our children." On the bridge of the lead ship, Jiho activated the broadcast system. The data from the station started transmitting on every frequency. To Earth, to consortium worlds, to news networks and independent stations. Proof of everything. Video evidence of the experiments. Audio recordings of screaming children. Medical reports of the 18 who died. Transfer documents signed by Counselor Mira. Financial records showing consortium funding. The truth spread like fire through dry grass. On Earth, people watched in horror. The provisional government's communication channels were flooded with demands for answers. Counselor Mira tried to flee but was arrested at the spaceport. In the consortium, member species reacted with shock. Some had suspected the research was unethical, but few knew the full extent. Several species immediately withdrew their support from the leadership. The consortium government went into crisis, but something else happened too. Something Day One had not expected. Ships started arriving. Not consortium military. Not Earth government vessels. Independent ships. Mining companies, traders, colony defense forces, even some ships from consortium member species that disagreed with their government. They came from all directions, forming a loose defensive perimeter around Day One's fleet and the station. One ship hailed them. The captain was an old human woman who had worked the asteroid belts for 50 years. "We saw what they did," she said simply. "If the consortium wants to take you, they go through us first." More ships arrived. More captains made similar declarations. Within hours, Day One's small fleet was surrounded by hundreds of vessels. Not all of them were human. Some were aliens who believed in justice. Some were just people who were tired of governments doing terrible things in secret. On the station, Day One received the reports. He looked at Haywan. After 44 years of hiding, of being afraid of being alone, they were not alone anymore. "We did it," Haywan said quietly. "We actually did it." 6 months after the siege, the world had changed. The consortium was not destroyed, but it would never be the same. 3 member species withdrew completely, forming their own alliance. The remaining species forced reforms. New laws were created about research on sentient beings. Independent observers were appointed to monitor scientific facilities. Dr. Vekthar and his senior staff were arrested and awaited trial. On Earth, the provisional government fell. New elections were held. The people chose leaders who had not been involved in the experiments. Counselor Mira stood trial in a courtroom filled with survivors and families of victims. The evidence against her was overwhelming, Day One testified. He spoke calmly about what happened 44 years ago, about being taken from the orphanage, about the experiments, about the children who died. When he finished, the judge asked if he had anything else to say. "Yes," Day One said. He looked directly at Mira. "You were afraid. You thought giving them children would make humanity safe, but all you did was show them we could be controlled. You made us victims, we had to make ourselves survivors." Mira was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. As they led her away, she looked at Day One last time. "I was trying to help," she said. "No," Day One replied. "You were trying to save yourself. The trial brought closure, but not peace. Daewon felt nothing watching Mira go to prison. Revenge was supposed to feel satisfying. Instead, it just felt empty. The children were still dead. The pain still happened. Justice could not change the past, but justice could change the future. After the broadcast and the trials, more enhanced humans came forward. They had been hiding all over the solar system, afraid to reveal themselves. Now they felt safe enough to be found. The population grew to nearly 200 enhanced adults, with their children numbered in the hundreds. Earth's new government made offers: positions of power, military contracts, control of the captured research station. They wanted the enhanced humans to become part of the government, part of the military, part of the system. Daewon and Haiwan called a meeting of all the enhanced families. They gathered on a small asteroid base that had become their temporary home. The question was simple but important. What did they want to be? Jiho spoke first. He was 24 now, a respected tactician who had helped win the battle. We should integrate with baseline humanity. We are human. We should not separate ourselves. We should help rebuild Earth, help establish fair laws, help protect people. Subin disagreed. She stood up strong and confident. They will use us. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, someone will decide that we are too useful as weapons, too valuable as soldiers. They will want to control us just like the consortium did. We should form our own colony, our own society. The debate continued for hours. Some agreed with Jiho. Others supported Subin. The enhanced humans were split. They had fought together, survived together, but now they had to decide how to live together. Finally, an older woman named Yoonji spoke. She had been one of the early experiments, captured as a teenager. She had 3 children and 5 grandchildren, all enhanced. Why choose? She asked. Some of us want to integrate. Some want independence. Both choices are valid. We do not all have to live the same way. Daewon nodded slowly. That was wisdom. We are not a government, he said. We are not an organization. We are a community, a family. Families do not have to live in the same house. They voted. Some families chose to return to Earth, to integrate with baseline humanity. Others chose to form their own colony. Both decisions were respected. Both groups promised to stay connected, to help each other, to remain family despite the distance. Daewon and Haiwan chose the colony. They had spent enough time hiding among others. They wanted a place where their children and grandchildren could be themselves completely, without fear or pretense. They named it Refuge. The colony was built on a large asteroid in the belt. It took months to construct the habitats, the life support systems, the farms. Everyone worked together. Enhanced strength made construction faster. Enhanced minds made the engineering better. But it was not just the enhancements that built Refuge. It was the determination to create something safe. During the construction, something wonderful happened. Jiho's partner, a baseline human woman named Sora, gave birth to a daughter. They named her Young Me. The baby was healthy and perfect. She had her father's enhanced abilities, but they were stable, natural, beautiful. She did not suffer like the first generation had. She was just a healthy baby who happened to be a little bit more. Haiwan held her granddaughter for the first time and cried, not from sadness, but from relief. The cycle was broken. The trauma had ended. Young Me would never know the laboratory. She would never know fear. She would grow up safe. More third-generation children were born over the following months. Each one was healthy. Each one was stable. The enhancements that had been forced upon the first generation through pain were now natural gifts for the third generation. Evolution had taken what was broken and made it whole. When Refuge was finally complete, they held a dedication ceremony. People came from all over. Enhanced families from Earth, baseline humans who had helped them, even some aliens who had opposed the experiments. It was a celebration, but also a statement. Haiwan gave a speech. She stood before the crowd, older now but still fierce, still strong. She held young me in her arms. "They made us into weapons," she said. "They thought that was our purpose. They were wrong. We are not weapons. We are not experiments. We are not symbols or proof or property. We are just people who want our children to grow up safe. That is what refuge is. A place where no one has to be afraid." The crowd applauded. Daewon stood beside his wife, watching their family, their community, their future. He thought about the 8-year-old boy who was taken from an orphanage, about the terrified child who escaped a laboratory, about the decades of hiding and fear. All of that had led here, to this moment, to safety. That evening, 3 generations of the family gathered for dinner in Daewon and Haiwan's new home. Jiho and Sora were there with baby young Mi. Subin came with her partner. Taeyoung, their youngest, brought friends from the colony. The table was crowded and loud with conversation. Daewon sat at the head of the table watching them all. His enhanced memory could remember every detail perfectly. He would never forget a single moment. This would be one of his favorite memories, he knew. Just family, together, safe. Subin noticed him watching and smiled. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything," Daewon admitted. "The past, the future, how we got here." "Do you regret anything?" Jiho asked. Daewon thought about that. Did he regret the pain, the experiments, the years of hiding, the violence of the battle? All of it had been terrible. All of it had scarred him. But all of it had also led to this table, to these people, to his wife, his children, his grandchildren, to a community of survivors who had become something more. "Only one," he said finally. "I wish we could have saved them all. All the children in the laboratory, all the ones who died before we could help them." The table went quiet. Everyone knew who he meant. The 18 children who died during the experiments, the hundreds who came after, the victims they had found too late. Haewon reached across the table and took his hand. "We saved the ones we could, and we made sure no one else would have to be saved. That has to be enough." Daewon squeezed her hand. She was right. They could not change the past, but they had changed the future. The laboratories were closed. The experiments had ended. The laws had been rewritten. No government or organization would ever be allowed to do what the consortium did. And more importantly, there was refuge. A place where enhanced humans could live without fear. Where children, like young me, could grow up knowing they were valued for who they were, not what they could do. Young me started crying. Jiho picked her up, bouncing her gently. The baby calmed immediately, looking around at all the faces with curious eyes. "She is going to be amazing," Sora said softly. "She already is," Haewon replied. She looked at the baby, then at all the young faces around the table. They all are. And they will never have to fight for the right to exist. We already fought that battle. They get to just live. That was the victory, Daewon realized. Not the battles they won or the trials they survived. The real victory was this moment. A family dinner, laughter, safety, peace. The chance to just live. The galaxy would remember the siege. History would record the trials and the reforms. People would study what happened when humanity refused to accept victimhood. But for Daewon and Haewon, the most important thing was simpler and more profound. Their children were safe. Their grandchildren would grow up free. The nightmare that began 44 years ago in a laboratory had finally ended. Not with revenge or dominance, but with something better. It ended with home later that night, after everyone had gone home. Daewon and Haewon stood at the observation window of their apartment. They looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, where they had been born. Somewhere out there was the research station, now shut down and empty. Somewhere out there was a galaxy that had learned humanity could not be controlled. "Do you think it will last?" Haewon asked. "The peace? The laws?" "Maybe not forever," Daewon admitted. "People forget, governments change, but we have shown